Good morning. Oh, it's quite loud. I think we even had more than academic 15 minutes, so we probably shall start now. And the first presentation will be on just to quickly remind you on what will happen today. We will have three very interesting presentations on practical experience, on implementation of adaptation strategies, and first will be on the local level, and as far as I know it's the only such example, the single example in the Baltic states when a municipality has developed an adaptation strategy, and that happened in Latvia, in Salzgiva. And now we'll have Antis Urtāns, who will present this as he participated in this process.
Okay. So, good morning in this sunny day. And okay, I shall try to explain how such climate change adaptation strategy can be made in small municipality. Okay, yeah. And meanwhile, I shall try to explain. Yesterday, there was put question for the need of bridge between science and policy makers, and I think that our case was definitely a case when there was bridge between science and between local municipality, which is rather small, and as always, you can imagine climate issues can be not the priority for everyday life of such local communities. But let's start. It starts a bit. This municipality is located on the eastern coast of the Gulf of Riga. In the same time, on the border with Estonia, crossed by highway via Baltic, and one of really this engine for this municipality is small harbor. But I must say the most important values for this region are sea, rivers, forests, and definitely people. And this morning I already discussed with Valdur that in many cases victory is going not to the best paid player, but to best motivated player. And I guess that it is one of reasons because this municipality is located within a biosphere reserve, and I am representing this biosphere reserve. And this area, biosphere reserve concept is concept of innovations for sustainable development. So taking into account both economical as well environmental issues. Some values which is worth to, so yeah, sea, rivers, fishes. River Salts is the biggest natural spawning river for the whole Eastern Baltic. From Copenhagen, it's official championship up after salmon has spawned, and okay, they're paying quite a big money, and I must say only 10% of licenses are getting salmons. The rest is going to the budget of local municipality, so not so bad. In reality, you can start to speak about climate issues when it's really touching you. And as a coastal municipality, you see that located on the coast, coastal municipalities are among first who are really starting to think what's changing, what's happening, and maybe what to do to adapt to new conditions. And that we really need to adapt to those issues, because you see that changes are slow, but they are evident. And this beacon some 30 years ago was on the bank, on the coast. Now it's washed into the sea. And again, it's very important to have good cooperation among scientists and bring this message from science sector to the sector of policymakers. And for example, this calculation or scenario for flooding of this coastal town South Riga was again a very important tool for us to start to speak with local municipality that the life is not ending with election, but life is continuing in long term. As well as one of things which has very close ties with climate change is eutrophication, and again it's one of issues which is really touching, and it's really important for local people. For example, here you see, and it's hardly imaginable that this river stretch is natural spawning stretch for sea trout. In reality, there's no place for him to come in and make and in reality it was not so easy. It was rather many discussions with municipality, with people, and again one of our activities was that as a biosphere reserve we are closely cooperating with University of Latvia, involving students in local researches, and in reality University of Latvia helped to great extent to develop this strategy or this declaration on green municipality. And for local municipality, again, it's very important to have such cooperating, institutions or stakeholders. And on her hand, municipality really has defined to put a definite amount of money in nature-friendly structures, starting from, okay, maybe for Germany, for Finland, it's rather small, it's okay for local farm, but for such small town like South Riga, such pilot activities are very important, and some of them are quite unique as well for Latvia, like this using sea heat for heating local premises. But as before I said, that the most important value are people, are motivated people, and even those local people who are not wearing, brands of Gucci and such things, they are important players. And for example, you can work with them cooperating and motivating things which are very close for them as well. And clean and how to say, biodiverse rivers in reality is one of the backgrounds as well for climate changes. And yeah, sometimes I am showing this man on the rather plain looking man, but he has very fantastic spirit and idea to keep and maintain rivers. And I think that he, using his tractor, he's professional in supporting spawning areas, and again, supporting such local people, you are really adding to his self-confidence, and such people are really becoming used not only in this municipality but all over Latvia as for for river maintenance. Dealing with climate changes, I started one initiative, place a stone in the stream, and so one maybe stupid question, please raise your hands, who of you have ever tried to sway a stone into the river, into the pond, or did you? Oh, okay. And now second question, did you or do you feel shame for it? No. Okay. So it means that you are very normal people, and it's really background how we can start to discuss with local people, because not always we are thinking that your stone went drawn down to the ground. In reality, starts another life, starts water life, and it can act as aeration system, free of charge, and working around there. It can become a small microhabitat. It can become a shelter or hide for fishes. And in reality, for example, we know that 10 square meters of such rifle areas can destroy organic pollution produced by one human man. And it's again one story how you can involve local people saying, okay, let's keep your rivers, adapt them for fishes, for biodiversity, and at the same time, such rivers are adapted for climate changes. And sometimes we call that such rifle areas would become oxygen-sensitive species refugees in future. And again, this story is very simply and sticky, and people are accepting it and doing it not only in Southern municipality, but now this idea spreads outside biosphere reserve. Yeah, and again, the last line is citizen awareness of citizens, which can really starting and doing small things that they can really make this added value, that not only they themselves, but as well as their neighbors start to think that they can not only observe, but that they can do as well something. And what they are doing, it's practical with measurable results, say 10 square meters or oxygen increase of oxygen saturation in water. And I must again say that thanks to this cooperation between University of Latvia and Biosphere Reserve as a link between municipality, we managed to involve students in Inar is not, yesterday there was Inar who was as well student in this process. I don't see her today, okay. But the idea is that you see that more than 90 interviews and panels and discussion activities which would be impossible from part of municipality because it needs time, resources and specialists. And in this moment our nature conservation institution provided both time, specialists, and it was very interesting that after 2-year activities, this general poll for citizens, what's their attitude towards climate change issues, it's rather positive. Yeah? And it's, for us it seems that it can, it's not only looked from TV, but as well from their own activities. Yeah, and as Julie already mentioned, we were first in Latvia, and I guess in all Baltic countries, which in cooperation with local municipality really developed such adaptation strategy. And having Baltic or Baltic project, we managed as well to develop one maybe crazy idea, such interactive exhibition or platform where local people can meet, can discuss. For for example, dealing with new environment-friendly energies or activities, or using their hair fan, trying to, look what happens if you are building your houses next to the beach. Maybe it's naive things, but they are working. And for example, upper left picture, we made plan of the town and put on this plan the lines in accordance with this Potsdam Institute scenario of flooding. And for local people, it's very personal, because they can see that, okay, scenario 1, yeah, our buildings are impacted. And really the idea is to continue and to keep such interactive exhibition as meeting point for local people. And one of main conclusions is that in many cases, even not having project and big money, but simply having this motivation of local people, they can do small things in their neighborhood, in their farms, and all those small things in reality have very high added value, and added together they can really make quite a good result. And yeah, I think that at that point I shall stop, and I think that it can be like example for small municipalities having no big funds, how to develop those things. So.
Thank you very much. As yesterday, we will have time for questions later, and I'm sure that you'll be able to ask questions on maybe more detailed description on the process, because I know that it was quite interesting, and that municipality
having students as slaves.
Is having students as slaves, and also about the sort of first initial reluctance of municipality to cooperate, until they realize that first they don't really have to do anything themselves, because it will be sort of done for them, and also when they realized what are the actual impacts of climate change, because they are related to their daily problems that they already have to solve today.
Yeah, and maybe I can add that if in the very beginning it's because Major is not coming, is not here, so a pity he didn't manage to come. But first contacts were not very, not positive. But yes, we know climate changes. We know sometimes our roads are destroyed, but we don't have specialists and we don't have time. Yes, maybe when we shall have specialists and time, and so the first stage maybe was bigger pressure from our side. Let's do it together, and then let's believe us that what we are doing, and what simply give addresses of yours, stakeholders, and we shall start. And yeah, and it works. It worked. Yeah.
Thank you. Oh, do you want to do it now? Okay, let's do it now.
I won't really know, because otherwise I will forget my question. Valdur Lahti, Stockholm Environment Institute Talent Center. After presenting to the city people the possible lines of the flooding under the different scenarios made by Potsdam, have you noticed in the city any changes that people are moving away from the flood risk areas? A property has become cheaper in those areas, or? Okay.
I must say that those scenario lines deals with 2050 and 2070. Yeah? So still those people are there, yeah? But I think that maybe not in town, but outside, on the coast, those local our institution was responsible for permissions, for building permissions, one of things. And what we saw really is that now it's much more easy to argue not to allow to build closer to the coast, because we have one very good argument. Yeah, and I think that it is as well a result for future insurance expenditures and such things. Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions?
Yes, thank you for your presentation. I think it was very interesting to have this local perspective. But what we spoke yesterday with some Estonians is exactly that climate change, whereas impacts are global, then the action adaptation is always local. And you said that the key issue was really getting the people, local people, engaged through their needs. But climate change is it's not something tangible. You cannot see it probably in a lifetime of one person, maybe yes, but it's hard to kind of sell it to the people. So how did you manage more in concrete terms? You said that in the beginning it was the municipality pushing and putting up in a bit of a pressure, but was it the communication, because somebody had to constantly come back with the same messages? How did you manage to get people on board?
I think that maybe it was my fault, because I really like water activities and to improve water quality. And simply when you are finding, supporters, local supporters, children always are the best supporters, yes? And after, when they are telling their fathers and mothers that it was something cool, yeah, then next time, sometimes it's more easy as well saying, okay, but you can take your father and mother. And maybe there was one slide with not only families, but not only adults or children, but families are working. And because this working in the rivers, they see result. Yeah. And it's very important to see tangible things. Yeah. that really there are fishes coming. Yeah. It's said by fishermen that, okay, restored areas are quite fishy in this moment. And simply try to find one moment and say that you are good, yes, and it works, yes. And each likes when he said, okay, you are hero. Yeah. Very simple.
And I think when we first spoke about this project, you also mentioned that first people don't really they don't have the connection between climate change adaptation and their real problems. But when these people were told that the roads, for example, municipality were told that the road that, Via Baltica and other smaller roads that go along the coast, that this washing off of the road is related and will continue if nothing is done. And when people were told that it will impact the fish resources in the sea on which they depend, most of them depend, then they realized that it's something important and were more willing to participate.
And okay, maybe again dealing with those with those rivers, for example, cleaning rivers and installing such rifle areas, you can say, okay, again you are doing it for yourself, because you know that Baltic Sea is saturated with all phosphorus and nitrogen and so on. And if you can clean your river stretch and make it like aeration system, it means that cleaner water goes to the Baltic Sea, and maybe you shall have not such big blue-green algae growths during summertime. Again, you are doing it for yourself. Doing in river, in the same time you are helping Baltic Sea. There are different ways how to say that this small thing what you are doing, it's really needed for big scale. Yeah. And because sometimes when you are directly saying, oh, climate change, you can mitigate or you can adapt it, it's not working. Yeah, but so.
Thank you. Any other questions? Well, you will have a chance to ask them later if you have any. And now, now we go to the next presentation. It will be Sebastian Berg from Germany, who will talk about the German experience, which at least we have always we have this perception that it's done properly, and so we will be able to learn from this experience. So, please.
Yes, good morning from my side. Dear organizers, dear hosts, thank you very much for the invitation. I would like to talk about the development and the process of adaptation and the adaptation strategy in Germany, and specifically about the role of stakeholder participation in that development process. I divided my presentation into 3 parts. So first I would give a very short introduction to the adaptation strategy development, then I will go to tell something about stakeholder participation, and then I will talk about the vulnerability assessment approach, which we see in Germany as one example for stakeholder participation, in fact. First of all, this is a figure that illustrates how we in Germany see the governance structure, or the whole arrangement of the process of developing our adaptation strategy. So you see the national adaptation strategy process in the middle, and we have that working group of national ministries that is steering the process, and this working group is led by the Federal Ministry of Environment. And of course, my agency, the Federal Environment Agency, is also a key player in that process. Furthermore, we have the Conference of the Federal States. This is the body where the federal level works together with the so-called Länder level, so the national level with the federal state level. And furthermore, of course, EU activities, steering groups are of importance for us, input from research institutes, and nevertheless, all the stakeholders. Those are cities and municipality representatives, also representatives from businesses or NGOs. In 2008, the German adaptation strategy was adopted by the federal cabinet. It is the national framework for adaptation, and in 2008 it was a starting point for a medium-term iterative process of adaptation in Germany. The major objectives for adaptation in Germany are to reduce the vulnerability, to sustain or increase the adaptive capacity of natural, societal, and economic systems, and furthermore, to improve the knowledge base and identify to communicate risks, but also opportunities of climate change. The adaptation strategy addresses altogether 15 fields of action. We have 13 sectors and 2 so-called cross-cutting issues. This becomes more clear on this slide, where this broad field of actions is named in detail. So, for instance, agriculture, forestry, fisheries, biodiversity, soil, public health, tourism, then transport, building, construction area, energy, industry, commerce, finance, water management, and coastal protection are the sectoral fields of action. And what we find very important is that spatial planning and urban land use planning, as well as civil protection, are the so-called very relevant cross-cutting issues to that 13 sectors. The adaptation strategy is accomplished by the Adaptation Action Plan, which was adopted in 2011, also by the Federal Cabinet. And this action plan names activities at the federal level. Those are structured into 4 pillars. First of all, it's providing knowledge and enabling all stakeholders in Germany that should implement measures on adaptation. Then second, the national policy framework, that means which laws or which national funding programs should be modified to improve adaptation processes. And furthermore, the action plan outlines direct activities at the federal level and also gives linkage to international responsibilities of Germany. Then perhaps something specific for a federal state is that in this action plan we do not only outline the activities of the national level, but also describe common activities of the federal and the state level. So this is specific for a federal state like Germany. And as background information in the adaptation plan, we have there some annexes that show summaries of climate data and projections, so all the background material, as well as giving an overview of central documents on the state level, because for some actors and some stakeholders it is also important not only to know something about the national adaptation strategy, but also about strategic documents on the state level, for instance on the Baltic Sea coast or in Bavaria in the Alpine region. Yeah, since the process started in 2008, as I mentioned, we are now in the phase of elaborating a progress report that should be finalized by the end of 2015. And the main components of that progress report are a vulnerability assessment to prioritize risks and derive adaptation needs at the federal level. Then second, an indicator-based evaluation of the effects and implementation status of the national adaptation strategy will be part of that progress report. And we will also include stakeholder recommendations. This then leads us to an updated action plan, which lines out the future federal activities, including a time plan and also a finance plan. And we will surely also draw conclusions on concrete further development of the overall adaptation strategy. Then I would like to continue with the role of stakeholder participation in the German development process. In general, we can define several reasons why we should go for participation and why we should involve stakeholders. I think that adaptation to climate change is a cross-cutting issue, and that should be addressed by a broad variety of stakeholders and actors, or also addresses those variety of stakeholders and actors. And furthermore, developing and implementing adaptation strategies and specifically measures needs the involvement and coordinated action among all the actors and stakeholders. And communication and dialogues with stakeholders can support a joint understanding of the topic and of adaptation needs also at the local and regional level. And then the coordinated development of adaptation activities can be done with shared responsibilities. And I think those shared responsibilities are also one main factor of real success of implementation of measures. From an academic point of view, we can differentiate between different degrees of participation. I think very common is to simply communicate in the bottom of this figure via newsletters or website, or let's say in forums or conferences like this one. Then the next step would be to consult stakeholders, so to go into an intensive dialogue with them, and then you can also define the level of co-production. This is, for instance, the case when you organize scenario workshops, and so to say that the highest level of participation is the co-decision when you have a steering board or advisory panel where, let's say, on the steering bodies in municipalities, but also on the national level, consult external experts from research and scientific institutions, and they can really influence the decisions made into that board. The link shown there leads to a publication that we published in the last year or 2 years ago, where you find further details on that topic of participation and the different degrees and how this is or was implemented in different, let's say, stakeholder activities we conducted in Germany. Yeah, the role of my institution, the Federal Environment Agency, Umweltbundesamt, in that process is that we are, let's say, we are not mainly responsible. The Umweltbundesamt, Federal Environment Agency, is not mainly responsible to for the sciences itself. We have other institutions like Potsdam Institute for Climate Impact Research or Climate Service Centers that do a lot of scenario work, modeling, and things like that. Our main responsibility lays in transferring the knowledge to raise public awareness and to look for cooperation, like expert discussions or a series of stakeholder dialogues that we do, and then of course offering a website and newsletters and so on and so forth. Not to forget guidelines and tools that should be of help, particularly for actors in municipalities or also in companies. Now I'd like to tell you a little bit more in detail about some examples of stakeholder participation. As I mentioned, we have a series of so-called stakeholder dialogues which deal with different, have been dealt with different topics over the last 5 years. This activity mainly aims at raising awareness on national institutions, also to connect all our stakeholders and to participate them in the development of national activities. The last one was a bigger national dialogue on infrastructures and climate change. Then different to that series of stakeholder dialogues are regional conferences. We organize this in cooperation with the Länder, so the federal states in Germany, to sensitize the municipalities in that federal states. And topics, for instance, recently were dry areas in eastern Germany, or forthcoming agriculture in coastal areas. So this is then very specifically for regions inside of Germany, and also topic related. Another form of stakeholder participation are the so-called cooperation markets. Those were 3 pilot events we did we organized in Bremerhaven, Essen and Karlsruhe, so close to the coastline of the North Sea. Essen is a city in the Ruhr area, so a very densely populated area in Germany, and Karlsruhe is close to the valley of the river of Rhine, and this is an area where we very often have heat waves during summer times. So different areas in Germany with different vulnerabilities, so to say. And this cooperation market should help to stimulate local cooperation between companies and non-profit organizations. And yes, now we are trying to figure out how we can continue this process if we will be further on, organize such cooperation markets, or if we can identify, let's say, other actors that should take over this part of stakeholder communication. Yeah, perhaps some more words on that last national stakeholder dialogue from January of this year. The topic was infrastructures and climate change, and of course we have had to focus on sub-topics and decided to talk about transport, then the building and construction sector, the energy sector, and last but not least public health. The form we participated, the stakeholders, were sectoral workshops over 2 days, where we discussed first proposals for a new adaptation action plan. So this one that I mentioned before, that should be finalized by the end of 2015. And the stakeholders then gave recommendations for specific activities on the federal level. You can imagine the work in the workshops like we gave handouts into the workshop with lists of concretely named activities on the federal level. So this does not deal with concrete measures, because measures are implemented on the local and regional level. On the federal level, we think more about instruments, as we say, activities. So this means, should a law be modified, or do we need a new funding program, or do we need a new website to better communicate and things like that. So we handed out concrete lists of descriptions for potential new instruments, and we also gave a concrete description of that instrument. So there was a short title, a concrete description, also a background description, why we think this could be of importance. And then we discussed over 2 days. It was altogether, I think, 4 to 5 hours with the stakeholders. And in the 4 different topic workshops, it was very different how the stakeholders could be activated and then really discussed about it. So it was also, I would say, a very important experience for the federal level, how this could be of success, so to say. The next steps after that national stakeholder dialogues are right now the selection of a, let's say, good policy mix by a criteria-based evaluation. So this is mainly done into an accomplishing research project. And then the result of that project work should be a proposal list for the new adaptation action plan, and the final decision then will be done by the working group of all national ministries. And they, again, discuss and negotiate that proposal for the new adaptation action plan. In my third part, now I would like to highlight the vulnerability assessment approach, because we also see this as a stakeholder process, that bridges the gap between science and policy, so to say. So the overall topic of this 2 days forum. Vulnerability to climate change is mainly described by this very nice figure that says that exposure and sensitivity together define potential impacts, and that, let's say, on the other side, there is a certain adaptive capacity that can be very low or can be medium or high, and when all of these are merged together, then we say, okay, this is the vulnerability of a sector, of a certain regional area, a municipality, a company, things like that. So you can apply this concept on nearly whatever you want. So we work with that concept in the background in the so-called network vulnerability. The network vulnerability consists of 16 federal agencies in the responsibility of 9 ministries. And this network is supported by a scientific team and also specialists for communication. And this team organizes biannual meetings of this network. And the aim of the network is to analyze the pattern of vulnerability in Germany, and this is based on existing knowledge from regional and sectoral vulnerability assessments. And last time I get to know a number of regional and sectoral vulnerability assessment studies in Germany, and it was more than 100 up to 200 different studies on agriculture or fisheries or ecosystem. So very very specific studies, and they all were collected by the network, and also were evaluated how they can give input for the process. And not to forget, the network is also active to create a new and consistent vulnerability assessment, and finally for all of Germany and all sectors of the German adaptation strategy by the end of this year. Yeah, so this is a very broad approach that consists of quantitative assessments based on indicators and models, partly with semi-quantitative elements, and then the network use current and projected data, of course, based on climate and not only based on climate scenarios, but also on socio-economic scenarios. They also use causal relations as basis for indicator development, and they before that they developed so-called cause-effective chains or impact chains. Then one main goal of the approach is to create maps and graphs, and out of that to identify regional and sectoral hotspots. Okay, so now I come to my last few slides that show an example how the maps will look like and what is done. So here you see a map about floodplains and flood depths, and this is the area of the city of Hamburg around the North Sea. Here we have the Baltic Sea coast, but this is the North Sea. And you see that the darker the blue, the higher the floods are here around the Hamburg area. And this is a map that demonstrates the land use. Also the same regional case, the city of Hamburg, the river of Elbe to the North Sea. And and in this map it is demonstrated how the data used will be aggregated. So, for instance, you can see that here we have very detailed information with all the little red dots for settlement areas, including industry and traffic. And those are sensitive areas. And then another map gives that aggregated level. And this is important because not all the data that will be combined with this set of data is in the same detail. So you have to use aggregated data to work further on with that, and this becomes a little bit more visible in this map, perhaps also not visible. This is the combined map of floodplains with land use. And there you can see that here the sensitive areas are not that much as the flooded areas in the first map, so to say. And when we look at this in the big picture over Germany, then we can again say that the dark blue areas are settlement areas that were often flooded, or where a high degree of the area is flooded, and and that causes of course then damages at buildings and infrastructures. And yeah, so there you can find some hotspots then of course, and perhaps a little bit surprising is that in Germany that there are not the hotspots here in the Baltic area at the Baltic Sea line, but more here in the coast of the North Sea. Yeah, and of course due to river floods here in the eastern parts of Germany that were again heavily impacted in the last year. And we had floods in Germany in this area, the so-called 100-year floods 3 times within a decade. So this is a clear sign that climate change is happening also today and not only in the future. Yeah. So to come to some conclusions, I would like to emphasize that, of course, future is and will be uncertain, and that this, of course, then needs an iterative and transparent process. So, yeah, state clear that there are uncertainties. Of course, adaptation is a broad topic, and therefore acceptance and mainstreaming is needed. So really try to touch all the other political areas and go into their arenas. We have to support decision making by providing information, data and tools. And I think this is a task for science and policy as well. Yeah, due to the fact that adaptation is regional and local, we have to strengthen vertical integration and cooperation, and really to push forward participation of stakeholders and actors. And yeah, finally, it becomes more and more clear that successful adaptation is tied on existing social networks and initiatives. And I think it was very well described by Andres in his presentation before, that you need the initiatives then on the local level, and that you need willingness also of the politicians that give clear statements to act with impacts of climate change. Yes, thank you very much for your attention. It was a, let's say, very rough or a very brief insight into what we are doing in Germany.
Will there be any questions to Sebastian?
Thank you very much for the presentation. That was a nice experience. And my question goes to the interval 3 years from the strategy was adopted by federal government, and then 2011, as you noticed, there was adaptation plan. What was the reasons for such a
long,
relatively long time?
Okay. Yeah, I see your point. For sure, different reasons could be named for this. The very first thing in Germany always is that we are a federal state, and that the national government has to discuss with the Länder level, so the federal states. That means when there is the strategy, and then it should become more clearer, and details have to be defined in an action plan, that then first proposals are not only discussed in that working group of the national ministries, but they also have to start a dialogue with all the 16 federal states. And this really takes time in Germany. And a second reason is then that of course also the 16 federal states have their own adaptation strategies, because they can really more in detail look on the coastal zones than if this is the federal state of Mecklenburg, Western Pomerania, for instance. Or if it is Bavaria, then they can look at impacts in the Alpine region and melting glaciers and something like that. So this takes time. And we experience it again and again. So we are now over 2 years in a process of agreeing on indicators.
Thank you. Other questions?
Thank you very much. You presented the stressed the importance of the mainstreaming, the adaptation. Can you bring 3 examples, or how many you can find so quickly, of adaptation mainstreaming in the energy sector?
In which sector? Sorry?
Energy.
What are examples for adaptation mainstreaming in the energy sector? I have to think of the discussions from the last workshop. I was not in that workshop. I was in a public health workshop personally, but they discussed about in the energy sector a lot about also the EU framing. How the energy companies are affected by that certificate system for the CO2 emissions, and that they have spent a lot of money to mitigate, to contribute to the mitigation of climate change. And so it happens from time to time that when you would like to talk about adaptation, that you suddenly talk about mitigation. And clear adaptation issues that were discussed is if we need new regulation on that energy market inside Germany that stimulates the companies to look more on adaptation impacts, and particularly if the federal level could somehow support a better maintenance of the energy net. And because also in Germany we had very hard winter seasons 5 years ago, and in one region in Germany the energy net collapsed because there was a lack of maintenance, so to say. But I cannot clearly say what they recommend in detail. So I'm very sorry.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Yes, I always have questions. So you mentioned this cooperation market, the stimulation of local cooperation between companies and NGOs. Maybe you can elaborate a bit on that, because I'm not sure if I understood what's the exact, what was the output of it, or what was the exact. And then the question before was about 3 adaptation mainstreaming actions in energy, but you said that you attended a work on public health. Maybe then you can bring examples of the mainstreaming activities in the public health sector. Thank you.
The cooperation markets and the 3 pilot cooperation markets in 3 different cities came out with a result that the actors in those 3 cities decided to work on, let's say, in a loose coupling way. So the main outcome, so to say, of that that cooperation markets was that everyone gets to know each other. So the very first important thing, and that some actors then decided, okay, if you are doing this and I am responsible for that, we should continuously work together. And as far as I know, I was not participating in that cooperation markets. They came out with a short paper, a short, not a real contract. How did we say? I'm missing the words, and doesn't matter. With a not with a real contract, but with an agreement, so to say, how they will go on in the future with that process. There was not any result that they decided really to implement this measure and to give that amount of investment to implement a higher dike in Bremerhaven at the North Sea coast, for instance. But the direction for a certain group or a core group of actors, I think became more clearer in that cooperation markets. New instruments in Germany for public health were discussed in a parallel workshop to energy, and that is quite difficult. We discussed a lot about the social welfare system in Germany in general, and where there are the gaps, and this leads us to a conclusion that there are, let's say, components in a system that are not mainly influenced by climate change, but by other, let's say, political agendas. For instance, if you think of heat waves in summertime, then such heat waves, of course, affect specifically vulnerable groups like retired persons, elderly persons, so to say, or elderly persons that live in, how's it called, special apartment units where they get care by medical persons. And then the question is if there is a regulation that says something about air condition of such retirement homes, or that says something about the frequency, how elderly people should be visited by medicines, and something like that. So, and this is very, very complicated in Germany, because there are a lot of stakeholders that are responsible for, let's say, different laws or different contracts, between medicines and between the, I don't know how I could translate it, by the system unit that is responsible to pay for the medicines and things like that. So it was very complicated. There was, in public health, there was not a single case that was, or that seems to be really easy to solve, so to say. So that was my personal conclusion out of that public health workshop, that a lot of things that are going on in Germany are very, very complicated, in public health especially. To my mind, this is different to other sectors, so to say.
Thank you. Another question?
One more question about energy sector adaptation. The well-spoken energy vendor in Germany, everybody knows, everybody talks about that that's real correlation with climate change and non-ability for climate mitigation. So the new policy has been set up in Germany. What about now the national strategy plan. It's done, and now we are working on the second national action plan 2. My question is, because I'm keen about Estonia, from where I come, will have the same energy vendor towards renewable energy, and as we mainly rely now on oil shale, we will have energy vendor to work out electricity based on byproducts of oil production, oil shale oil production. Up to now it was just straightforward burning of oil shale. Now it's vice versa. So electricity production will be byproduct plus the national energy vendor towards the renewable energy. We have planned renewable energy 100% to year 2030. It's a very ambitious plan. We never know whether it will be. But in Germany, how will make the national action plan number 2? Would the energy vendor having its main role there, or what about the strategy change? That strategy plan should be changed as well, or how it works in Germany? Thank you.
Okay. Yes. Energy vendor in Germany is still one main objective of the government. I know that there had been some, let's say, irritations in the political arena by Germany, also on the EU level, but it is still one of the main objectives. One can say that, let's say, energy vendor is one strategy and adaptation is a strategy accompanying that, and the question is then, of course, how it can be mainstreamed, the two topics. And what we discuss is that renewable energies can be more organized on a local or regional level, so that there is a certain autarky on that in that area, and this can be of benefit to adapt to certain impacts of climate change. So if you have a very wide and dense net, like in Germany, and you have, let's say, several extreme weather events, then a wide net can, and then if a very wide and broad net is affected by an extreme event, this will cause for a big number of households if the net collapsed then. And combined with renewable energies, where you have smaller nets, then this can be a benefit also for adaptation issues, so to say. That means that let's say that the needs for adaptation can be seen as a push factor for energy vendor, in a way. If this is an answer to your question. Yes. I don't know if this is exactly done nowadays, so to say. But probably out of that adaptation action plan number 2, we will be forced to look more into detail in other strategy areas of the political arena in Germany. And we started a research project a year ago, so it's now in the middle of implementation of the project, where we try to find out where are concrete interlinkages to other strategies, energy strategy, biodiversity strategy, sustainable development strategy, transportation plan in Germany, and where we try to find out where are conflicts or where could be trade-offs. And I think that by the time when the yeah, the updated adaptation action plan will be adopted. That then we will take more time for the real coordination of that mainstreaming. So it's really an iterative process, and it takes time. It could be that in 3 years you ask me again, oh, what have you done the last 3 years? And why does it take so long?
Thank you. Okay, thank you very much, Sebastian. Maybe now we can, from Germany, we can move to Finland, and the next presentation will be from Jana Kaipanen, who will be presenting the Finnish experience in development of the national adaptation strategy.
So, thank you for inviting me to come here and speak about Finnish adaptation strategy. I have a really short background in adaptation, about 1.5 years, and I'm still as Alice in Wonderland. I'm learning every day something new, so I still have really big gaps on my knowledge, and I'm still learning. I work as a senior advisor in Ministry of Agriculture and Forestry, who is a national coordinator for adaptation. So, in a nutshell, our adaptation strategy was approved in 2005. The objective of the strategy was strengthen and increase Finland's adaptive capacity. The strategy was national and sectoral. We have 15 sectors, and in the strategy there are 200 indicative measures for these sectors. The main principle was mainstreaming, of course, and meaning that the adaptation should be a part of everyday action in different sectors. Planning, policy making, decision making. Each ministry has had the responsibility to promote adaptation in their fields, in their sectors. And the policy background, the policy support has been the national energy and climate strategy since 2005. So here is kind of the timetable about the implementation, and it's not the whole truth, but in this picture you can see the kind of the main instruments. And one of the important instrument has been the research program, which was launched to support the strategy implementation, called ISTO. Other important instrument has been the action plan for environmental administration, the climate policy program for Ministry of Traffic and Communications, the action plan for adaptation of Ministry of Agriculture and Forestry, and then we have this internet portal called climateguide.fi, which is kind of communication tool. And the next slide is about implementation as well. There are also, in addition to ISTA, there has been 3 research programs that are more specialized to certain issues. One is for forestry and forest ecosystems. One is for ecosystem services, and one is more general, and it's still going, the FICCA, that is financed by Finland's Academy. And more concrete examples, one of the most important tools has been the revision of national land use objectives, because this is the tool to guide the land use planning. Of course, the river basin management plans, the strategy for renovation, biodiversity protection program and action plan, strategy of invasive alien species, then the whole water management sector has been revised and has adaptation approach or viewpoint included, like Dam Safety Act, Flood Risk Prevention Act, Water Act, water resources management strategy, and government. We have now in government's in Parliament the government's proposal for Water Management Act. Forest rebreeding program, provisional plans for forest damages, guide on exceptional situation related to environmental health, have also adaptation approach included. The action plan of development policy, the revision of regulation on electricity market that has dealing with the issues discussed with Germany presentation, the kind of supply of security in damage or the natural disaster situations. And then we have the Climate Act, which was kind of agreed in the government yesterday. So we have to see how it goes, but it's going to be a kind of important tool for mainstreaming as well in the future. So then I thought about which are the important elements of mainstreaming. And I see the strategy process and the strategy itself has been a valuable tool. First, in preparation to kind of raise awareness in stakeholders, in research institutions, in administrations in different levels. There has been cooperation, open seminars, thematic workshops, seminar, and commenting circulation rounds from stakeholders. And the strategy itself has been useful because in the strategy we have told to different sectors what are the kind of impacts of the climate change, what are the vulnerabilities of sectors, what kind of measures they should or could start. So it has been an important and good tool for mainstreaming. And of course, these sectoral action plans I told earlier, like for environmental administration, for Ministry of Agriculture and Forestry, and for Traffic and Communication Ministry, has been good instruments as well as the other policy instruments I represented as in the previous slide. One of the key kind of, not key, but important element has been the coordination group. And we have had quite a large coordination group, including, I think 10 ministries. We have Finnish Meteorological Institute, National Institute for Health and Welfare, 2 cities, City of Helsinki and Tampere, Academy of Finland, also Association of Finnish Local and Regional Authorities, Finnish Environmental Institute, and TEKES, including the coordination group. So this is to get information and kind of spread out information about actions. One element has been the energy and climate strategy that was approved on 2008. And in the policy linings there, it is said that government expects the regions and cities to do their own climate strategies, climate and energy strategies, and implementing programs based on the national strategy, which has meant that the regional and local actors has started their own processes. And of course, it's mitigation mainly, but also in almost all the cases, the adaptation is included to some extent. And in this work and in general work, the input of the Association of Finnish Local and Regional Authorities has been really important because they have been provided information, studies and guides for municipalities. And of course, the climateguide.fi portal is important tool, as well the research programs. And then a little bit the revision of our national strategy. We did the evaluation in 2003 just to kind of serve as a basis for revision. And here are some of the recommendations or the important recommendation of the evaluation. And the first is keep on mainstreaming, step by step. And the principle of having adaptation in everyday management, everyday planning or decision making is important. And also in this way we are able to kind of take into consideration the special characteristics of different regions and different sectors. What we should do more is adjust or develop policy instruments to see what are the important instruments and what should be done with them to kind of make things happen. And this is kind of one of the important steps for the future. The risk management, assessment and management tools were highlighted, and in the sense that they should be practical tools for people doing the adaptation. Other recommendations is we should do more to strengthen adaptation in regions and at local level. But there is one question how to do that. What are the best way to do that is still open. But at least we know that we have to provide practical tools and region-specific information. And one of the kind of ideas is not to create the wheel again, but utilize existing processes, networks and actors or actions to do that. Of course, cooperation between sectors and different levels of governments or administration has to be enhanced, as always, and will be always. But how to keep the package together is the issue here. And one new issue is we know that the direct and indirect impacts of global changes have influence also in Finland. And we had to understand this better and take into consideration in the future. One of the recommendations is try to make better use of business opportunities related to adaptation. And research is needed still, but the focus should be more on risk assessment and management in related to weather extremes, economic analysis, kind of practical tools how to estimate benefits and costs, and also the climate change impacts and adaptation linked to kind of other developments in society and economy that we know really little about. And of course, better informed decision making and making best of existing knowledge are important, as has been said here yesterday and today. And then, of course, communicate, and promote education. And the key to mainstreaming is that you provide information, you kind of participate, different stakeholders, you cooperate with them. It's spreading out information on best practices and success stories. But also, if we want to create spontaneous adaptation, we have to kind of communicate better. Okay. Maybe one thing from this revision process, I think otherwise it's not that important or interesting, but we started with the stock-taking process. And we sent a questionnaire to as many parties or organizations as we could think about. And we asked them about how you see the climate impacts in your own work, how you see the vulnerability of your own area, and what should be done. What are the kind of the measures, what kind of objectives the national strategy should have. And based on these and other things, we started the revision process. So now we have a draft strategy ready. It was kind of ready on March, and it's had a little bit different objective or vision. It has vision that the society is able to reduce or manage climate-related risks and adapt to changes in the climate. As the previous was about the adaptive capacity, it's more about risk and adapting to changes in climate. Still, we have mostly national approach, what should be done in national level. But we have tried our best to include also local and regional, as well as international and EU level measures as well. as well as cross-border cooperation. We have 14, we call it measure groups, maybe it's fields of action as is in Germany, and 31 measures, which is still quite a lot, I think. But still we are keeping the main principle of mainstreaming here. The national administration has the main responsibility. The ministries are main responsible for adaptation. But we are trying to improve the participatory approach and cooperation with stakeholders and actors. And it's highlighted in the implementation. In the new strategy of draft strategy, we have 3 goals. The first about is mainstreaming, integrating the adaptation. The second is about climate risk assessment and management, that we have tools that are useful and are used in different sectors and in different regions and local communities, so municipalities. And the third strategic goal is about research, communication, education. So, and these of course they are linked together. So they are not kind of separate strategic goals, but they are kind of a cluster. And here's a really poor translation about the field of actions. And I apologize if they are a bit unclear. But first, what I have been highlighting is the mainstreaming ones, what I see important in mainstreaming. And the first is climate proofing at national level. This means, of course, legislation or steering instruments or kind of forensic work of the government, what is done in government level. The second one is about the sectoral action plans or adaptation plans. Some of the sectors we want them to improve them and implement them. But the sectors which doesn't have them, and where the adaptation is an issue right now and is important right now, should start their adaptation work. Of course, we want to promote regional, local adaptation plans and projects. And then from strategic goal B is the risk assessment and management tools and methods. We want to make them in a way that they are useful for kind of private sector, for local actors, for different sectors. So that's one kind of the key measures, of course. And then, of course, we want to support other adaptation tools and methods in regional, local level. And then, of course, there are international cooperation, EU policies, cross-border cooperation, there are adaptation research, business opportunities, communication, and education. And the kind of the fourth path, that's not strategic goals, but is equally important, is establishing the network. Follow-up group of adaptation with which is linked to different processes. And then, of course, we want to monitor the strategy and evaluate the implementation in the future. So next steps is, of course, we had a kind of commenting. We sent the strategy for comments to different organizations, and we got 65 answers, which is quite a lot. And of course, we had the draft strategy in the e-participation forum in internet, and we had some comments from there, and we had an open seminars. And when we are finalizing, of course, it has to be kind of considered and taking in the strategy. But also the many of the comments, especially from the actors, are such that they could be used, they are used in the implementation. They have value in there. After finalizing strategy, it goes to the policy process. Now we are thinking that we have a government decision in principle on adaptation. I'm not quite sure about that, but this is the goal right now. Then, of course, we had to think about if we have Climate Act, how this is linked with that. And then starting implementation and referring to discussion yesterday, of course, this is one of the weaknesses we had, and we try to do better, to do systematic follow-up and assess that if we see how effective the strategy implementation has been. And here's more information, but of course, if you have questions you are not able to ask here today, you can always send me email or phone me my contact information. But then I made a kind of note of reality check this morning. And this all looks really nice in the paper, doesn't it? Yes. Well, the importance of adaptation in Finland is kind of realized. It's recognized and it's on the agenda, but adaptation, it's not a priority. It's not the priority, and it's not a priority. So we had to kind of tackle around that. Adaptation is not in the government agenda. It was not in the governance working program last time. So this has been made a little bit difficult to get resources for the work. And also we know that even though there are resources, there are cuts all the time. I think the situation is same in all the European Union countries, or in the countries all over the world. So even in the future, these existing resources are less. And it's especially bad in the municipalities where the kind of the big workload has to be done. So don't worry, there are always resources. We just have to find them, and we had to kind of compete with others with those resources. And, well, my approach is, well, try to find practical solutions. Try to be practical. It's not always sophisticated, but try to be practical. Small steps, and try to find the places where to work. Try to find the right persons, as the Estonian example this morning shows, that there are people interested, but they are not always the ones you expect them to be. I have been really lucky because my colleague in the Ministry of Environment has been really active and interested. We have really good cooperation, and I think this is valuable. So try to find the right persons. With them, you're stronger. Try to use existing actions and networks, because they are there already. Try to find those ones. And in our own, this is like my own strategy in the future, is try to get adaptation back to government agenda. We have a parliament election next year, and the new government will be nominated. So I want adaptation be in the working program then. And then I think we had to figure out how to make most of the Climate Act, if we have one. Thank you.
Thank you very much for a very interesting presentation, and I already see there are questions. And
thank you very much. It was a wonderful presentation, and I listened it and looked it, and I became a bit critical, but your end statement actually made me calm again, and not such critical. Because I've been involved in environment protection and mostly on this policy analysis, policy planning, policy implementation interface more than 30 years, 33 years now. And I become rather philosophical on looking how reality fits with the different national strategies, government strategies. Like with this, Finnish farmers, you are from the Ministry of Agriculture, Finnish farmers are building a nuclear plant in Hansakivi, in the northeast of Finland, near the Botnia Bay. Valio is cooperative of the farmers, and Valio is part of the Fennovoima, who is developer of the Hanhikivi nuclear plant. New plant, huge money, a lot of jobs. So municipality was very happy to have it there. A Baltic Sea major problem we all know is eutrophication. Climate change, more higher temperature, it means higher, bigger eutrophication, Cooling water is most important for the nuclear plants, therefore they built them near the sea. And the cooling water should come from the Baltic, and we know that climate change in a coming future means that all those cooling water inlets will be clogged with the green biomass because of the eutrophication and the heat and such. So, how this nice building of the nuclear plant fits into adaptation strategy, I don't understand. Do you?
Well, let's say that nuclear power stations in Finland is bigger question than life itself. So I don't want to answer that. But, well, I think what we are lacking in Finland is energy sector and adaptation in energy sector. And I hope our Ministry of Business and Trade, and no, it's not trade anymore. It's employment and business or something like that. I can't remember. Well, we try to kind of influence, have an impact that they do this kind of adaptation study and see what are in the energy sector, what are the questions and what should be done. But this is what I can do. It's a long way to go, and as I said before, nuclear power stations or plants in Finland are bigger questions than life.
Any other questions?
Thank you, Jana, for your presentation. It's kind of a follow-up question to what you mentioned, that is when nuclear power and all this energy and real money comes into question, then very often adaptation goes on to second place. But what I think Finland has been very strong in doing is exactly this green technology. And do you think you've managed to get, because it seems like I'm looking at from the outside, so I don't know how you've managed exactly to get the Ministry of Economy and Social Affairs so well on board, but it seems this green technology is seen also as a saver of economy, so it's easier probably to justify adaptation and all these measures. Maybe you can comment on that. Thank you.
Yes, clean tech is the key word for that opens many of the doors in Finland. So we have developing the business opportunities related to adaptation, and we have the clean tech issues there. So we are trying to find the ways to have adaptation as a clean tech issue as well, and try to kind of influence that way. I don't know how to do it, but well, I want to do it.
Please, how can you evaluate, is mitigation more mainstream than adaptation in Finland? And what is success, and are they separated or together?
Well, when I started the revision process, okay, we have a situation where adaptation has been an independent part of the climate and energy strategy. So it has been there, but it's not linked with the mitigation. Now we are doing a climate program for agriculture, and we're trying to link these together, because in agriculture, mitigation and adaptation has a lot of synergies. But I try to, there's a scale difference, because I was in a situation, in the workshop where the mitigation strategies, we have several of those in Finland, like lots of those, and we are building a new roadmap. And I started to ask that whether adaptation fits here. And the answer is that mitigation, well, there are scale difference because mitigation is global and adaptation is local. We can't kind of connect these in same paper. This is kind of pretty much the answer I get. And then I thought that, well, in the big scale, maybe yes, but in separate sectoral approaches or programs, we try to do this and see how it goes there from there.
Thank you very much. And second question is regarding that 14th point. the monitoring of the strategy, is monitoring the responsibility of one institution, or this monitoring is delegated to the responsible sectors as well, so creating in this way responsibility about implementation? Thank you.
I don't know yet. What I'm thinking is we try to have a kind of practical solution how to bring information from the sectoral action plan follow-ups, and the information we possibly get from the regions and the local action plans or adaptation strategies with kind of the indicators that are already in use. But I don't know how to use. This is the first project I want to launch when we start the implementation, planning the implementation. How to do this? Because we need the information for monitoring, regulation. We need the information for EU strategy, and we need it for in the future for Climate Act as well as adaptation. So we had to find to kind of best solution to kind of feed in all these processes.
I have two different questions. The first one is also linked what Christina asked to mainstreaming. You said that there probably will be a climate act, a national climate act. That is something that, let's say, is not widely discussed in Germany, but we have one federal state that already approved a climate act, but it is not a topic that is high on the agenda on the national level. What do you think about the mainstreaming issue? Is it of a higher benefit to have a single climate act, so a concrete law on climate issues, or is it better to go for a real mainstreaming, to go inside all the other sectoral laws or sector-related laws with adaptation issues on the national level?
Well, I see the importance of the Climate Act with the link with mitigation, because in the Climate Act there's mitigation and adaptation. I see the Climate Act importance in kind of having connection to the Parliament, because there is a kind of mechanism included where we had to report and get feedback from the Parliament. And then I see that the most important instruments are the sectoral laws. And I think this, because of the synergies, but also that we don't have trade-offs. And yeah, the sectoral laws are, I think, or regulations are the key.
Okay, so then this is similar to the state of reflection in Germany. And my second question is, do you have an overview about how many municipalities have their own adaptation strategies? I know in Germany there are only a few, mainly the big cities who are active, and the small municipalities, let's say, do not have resources and capacities for this. How is the situation in Finland?
Well, we have the similar situation. The big cities have these resources and the knowledge to do their adaptation strategies or action plans. I think almost half of the municipalities have a climate program, and the adaptation is there, but in, well, kind of in general level, the adaptation is important, and we had to kind of find ways to promote it. I was saying something else still. Sorry, I just, yeah. And I think, oh yes, and we sent a questionnaire to the municipalities to ask about the adaptation activities. And in most of the municipalities, they saw that its adaptation is included in other strategies, concerning the traffic or the water or the bioenergy. And they see that the action is happening there, not in separate adaptation program. And that's why we want to provide their tools, how to do things better in the future. That's our kind of, what we want to do is well, let's see that they are doing things. Most of the time they have been kind of lacking the knowledge. They want to do the right thing, but they don't know exactly how to do that. And that's why we want to help them.
Yeah, okay, thank you, very interesting.
Thank you. Any other questions? No, then thank you very much. That's probably the end of our presentation session. And now, as you remember, we have a coffee break planned. And after that, you will have a time to discuss probably some of your local issues. And also, we would like you to reflect on what you've heard during these 2 days. And maybe then report to us. So what will be your next steps and how maybe you can use the knowledge and the information that you have received today and yesterday to sort of carry on work on adaptation. And I think we have 3 tables, so we can split in groups and sit around the tables to discuss these issues. And what will be the time? I think. Let me check. Is here, so we can have like 15-minute coffee break and then back at. So we will have like 15 minutes. Okay, maybe we can get back at 12, start again. It will be like in 45 minutes for coffee break and the discussion. Yeah, thank you.